Kuala Lumpur just did something that has urban planners from London to Los Angeles frantically taking notes. And here's the crazy part. We didn't even realize we were writing the playbook. While the West was busy building car-centric cities that are now choking on their own traffic, Malaysia quietly created an infrastructure model that solves problems these global cities are spending billions trying to fix. What you're about to discover will completely change how you see those MRT stations and elevated highways you pass every day. Before we dive deep into this, if you're proud of what Malaysia is achieving and want to see more content celebrating our nation's innovations, hit that like button. And if you're the type who loves learning how Malaysia is quietly outpacing the world, subscribe, because we're just getting started. Your support helps us keep shining a light on Malaysian excellence that the world needs to see. Assalamu alaikum. Let's start with something you've probably noticed. When you visit cities like Los Angeles or London, you see traffic that makes our worst Jalan Kuching jam look like a Sunday drive. These cities have populations similar to Klang Valley, massive budgets, decades of development, yet somehow they can't move people efficiently. Meanwhile, you can hop on the MRT at Kajang, travel 51 kilometers through the heart of Kuala Lumpur, switch to the LRT, and reach your destination in Kelana Jaya faster than it takes a Londoner to cross their own city. How did that happen? The answer lies in a decision Malaysia made 20 years ago that seemed almost reckless at the time. While other developing nations were slowly expanding their transit networks, Malaysia committed to something audacious. Build everything at once. Integrate everything from day one. Don't wait for perfect conditions. In 2004, when the government announced plans for what would become the Klang Valley Mass Rapid Transit, critics called it overambitious. The price tag was estimated at 23 billion ringgit for the first line alone. For a developing nation, this was astronomical. But here's what those critics missed. Malaysia wasn't just building train lines. We were creating an interconnected organism. Every MRT station was designed to connect seamlessly with existing LRT lines, monorail, KTM commuter, and bus rapid transit. The Museum Negara station, for example, isn't just an MRT stop. It's a hub where 4 different rail systems intersect. You can transfer between them without leaving the station complex. That's not luck. That's intentional, integrated design. Now compare that to London's approach. The Elizabeth Line, their newest addition, opened in 2022 after 13 years of construction. Cost? £18.9 billion, roughly 111 billion ringgit, for a single 118-kilometer line. Our entire MRT network, spanning 3 lines with a combined length of over 150 kilometers, cost less than that. And we built it faster. The MRT Kajang line went from groundbreaking to operation in just 7 years. Sound familiar? This is the efficiency global cities are now desperate to replicate. Let me show you something even more interesting. In 2023, the Urban Land Institute, a prestigious American research organization, published a report examining successful public transit integration in developing cities. The case study they featured most prominently? Kuala Lumpur. They specifically highlighted our use of transit-oriented development. Every major MRT station has high-density housing, commercial spaces, and office buildings within 500 meters. The Taman Mutiara MRT station in Cheras is a perfect example. Within walking distance, you've got condominiums housing 10,000 people, 3 shopping complexes, a hospital, and dozens of offices. No one needs a car. Everything is accessible. But wait until you hear what happened next. Cities across Asia started copying this exact model. Jakarta's MRT, which opened in 2019, used Kuala Lumpur's integrated station design as their primary reference. Bangkok's newest extensions? Same story. Even Dubai, with all their wealth, sent urban planning delegations to study our system in 2021. They wanted to understand how we moved 400,000 passengers daily through the MRT network alone. with 99.7% on-time performance. That's better than Singapore's MRT, by the way. Yes, you read that right. Here's where it gets really interesting. The secret isn't just the trains. It's something called multimodal integration, and Malaysia perfected it out of necessity. Remember what Kuala Lumpur looked like in the 1990s? We had the LRT, but it only served certain corridors. We had buses, but they ran on inconsistent schedules. We had taxis, but the system was chaotic. Instead of replacing everything, Malaysia made a genius move. Layer new systems on top of old ones and force them to work together. The touch-and-go card you use to pay for parking at the MOMIC? That same card works on MRT, LRT, monorail, buses, tolls, and even at 7-Eleven. This interoperability seems basic now, but in 2004, when Malaysia started implementing unified payment systems across transit networks, it was revolutionary. New York City only fully integrated their payment system across all subway and bus lines in 2019. We were doing it 15 years earlier. Ever notice that? You can board a bus in Shah Alam, transfer to the LRT at Subang Jaya, switch to MRT at Museum Negara, and pay for everything with one tap. No separate tickets. No confusion. Meanwhile, in London, you need different tickets for different zones and different operators. Paris? Don't even get me started. Their RER trains, metro, and buses all use different systems. Tourists get lost trying to figure it out. Now let me show you the infrastructure element that really changed the game. The elevated highways and smart tunnel systems. Kuala Lumpur is built on challenging terrain. We've got the Klang River running through the city center, limestone hills, and a grid pattern that was never designed for modern traffic volumes. Instead of demolishing entire neighborhoods like American cities did in the 1950s, Malaysia went vertical. The Smart Tunnel, completed in 2007, is a perfect example. It's the longest multi-purpose tunnel in Southeast Asia. 9.7 kilometers of dual-function infrastructure. During normal conditions, it's a highway moving 40,000 vehicles daily. During floods, it converts into a massive stormwater diversion channel. This dual-purpose design cost 1.9 billion ringgit, expensive, yes, but it solved two critical problems simultaneously: traffic congestion and flooding. Cities worldwide are now replicating this concept. Singapore's deep tunnel sewerage system, completed in 2008, was directly inspired by Smart Tunnel. They sent engineers to study our system. Tokyo is currently designing similar infrastructure for their chronic flooding issues. The engineering firm MMC Gamuda, which built Smart Tunnel, now exports this expertise globally. They've consulted on projects in Australia, the Middle East, and South America. But here's the thing about Malaysia's infrastructure blueprint that makes it truly unique. We didn't wait for perfect economic conditions. The MRT project launched during a period of global financial uncertainty. Construction continued through multiple election cycles, government changes, and economic challenges. Most countries would have delayed or canceled such projects. We pushed forward because the leadership understood something crucial. Infrastructure investment isn't just about today. It's about positioning the nation for the next 50 years. The numbers prove this vision was correct. Between 2010 and 2023, property values within 500 meters of MRT stations increased by an average of 35%. Areas like Bandar Malaysia, once undeveloped land, are now billion ringgit projects attracting international investment. The economic multiplier effect is staggering. Every ringgit invested in public transit generates approximately 2.50 ringgit in economic activity through increased property values, business development, and job creation. Sound familiar? This is exactly what urban economists call the transit-induced development cycle, and Malaysia executed it flawlessly. Compare that to American cities, where transit projects often face decades of planning, political battles, and budget overruns. California's high-speed rail project, announced in 2008, was supposed to cost $33 billion and be completed by 2020. As of 2024, they've spent over $100 billion and haven't completed a single operational segment. Not one. Meanwhile, Malaysia built 3 complete MRT lines, extended the LRT network, added the MRT Putrajaya line at 45 billion ringgit for 57 kilometers, and maintained operational efficiency throughout. The difference? Decisive action and integrated planning. We didn't let perfect be the enemy of good. We built, learned, adjusted, and built more. Let's talk about the elevated highway network, because this is where global cities are really taking notes. The Duta Ulu Kelang Expressway, the Ampang Kuala Lumpur Elevated Highway, the Stormwater Management and Road Tunnel. These aren't just roads. They're vertical solutions to horizontal space constraints. Cities like Manila, Jakarta, and Bangkok are now building similar elevated expressways using Malaysian engineering firms and our design principles. Here's what they learned from us. Building elevated highways preserves ground-level space for public use, reduces land acquisition costs, and integrates with existing infrastructure without massive disruption. The Duke Highway, for example, runs 18 kilometers through densely populated areas with minimal ground-level impact. Try doing that with a traditional highway. You'd have to demolish thousands of homes and businesses. The economic impact is measurable. Travel time from Sentul to KLCC dropped from 45 minutes to 12 minutes after Duke opened in 1999. That's 33 minutes saved per trip. Multiply that by 100,000 vehicles daily, and you're looking at millions of hours of productivity recovered annually. Urban planners call this time dividend, and it's exactly what makes infrastructure investment worthwhile. But perhaps the most impressive aspect of Malaysia's infrastructure blueprint is how we've maintained and upgraded these systems. The LRT Kelana Jaya line, opened in 1998, underwent a complete signaling system upgrade in 2021 to increase frequency and capacity. The LRT Ampang line received new 4-car trains to replace the old 2-car sets, doubling capacity without building new tracks. This adaptive improvement approach costs far less than building new infrastructure while dramatically improving service. Global cities are learning that lesson the hard way. New York's subway system, built over a century ago, requires hundreds of billions in deferred maintenance. Their trains break down constantly because they neglected systematic upgrades. London faces similar challenges. Their tube system needs massive investment just to maintain current service levels. Malaysia, by contrast, built modern systems and maintained them properly from day one. Remember what I said about transit-oriented development? That's now the global standard for sustainable urban growth. The World Bank released guidelines in 2022 specifically recommending the Kuala Lumpur model. Integrate transit with dense, mixed-use development. Create walkable neighborhoods around stations. Use consistent fare systems across all modes. These aren't revolutionary ideas. They're what Malaysia has been doing for 2 decades. And this is where it gets really interesting. Malaysia's infrastructure success isn't just about engineering and money. It's about political will and long-term vision. Every government since 1998 has continued expanding public transit, regardless of political differences. That consistency is rare. Most countries see infrastructure projects canceled or delayed with every election. Malaysia treated this as a national priority that transcends politics. The results speak for themselves. Kuala Lumpur now ranks among the top cities in Southeast Asia for public transit accessibility. More impressively, we achieved this while maintaining affordability. An MRT ride from Kajang to KL Central, covering 43 kilometers, costs 5.80 ringgit. Compare that to London, where a similar distance costs about 35 ringgit. Tokyo? Around 25 ringgit. We've built world-class infrastructure that remains accessible to average Malaysians. Cities from India to South America are now studying this balance between quality and affordability. How did Malaysia build premium infrastructure without pricing out ordinary citizens? The answer lies in government subsidies and strategic financing. The government absorbs operational losses to keep fares low, viewing public transit as essential service rather than profit center. This social infrastructure approach is now being recommended by urban planning experts globally. Look at what's happening right now. The MRT Circle Line, currently under construction, will add another 50 kilometers to the network. Estimated completion is 2030, with a budget of 63 billion ringgit. That will bring total MRT track length to over 200 kilometers, making Kuala Lumpur one of the most comprehensively covered cities by modern rail transit anywhere in the world. For a metropolitan area of 8 million people, that's extraordinary coverage. But here's what really matters. Every neighborhood benefits. The MRT doesn't just connect rich areas to the city center. It reaches places like Sungai Buloh, Kajang, and Putrajaya. Working-class Malaysians in these areas now have the same access to opportunity as someone living in Bangsar or Mont Kiara. That's equity through infrastructure, and it's something wealthy nations struggle to achieve. So what can we learn from this? Malaysia proved that developing nations don't need to wait for perfect conditions to build transformative infrastructure. We showed that integrated planning from day one prevents the costly retrofitting that plagues older cities. We demonstrated that maintaining affordability while building premium systems is possible with the right priorities. Most importantly, we proved that consistent long-term vision, executed across multiple governments and economic cycles, creates lasting national transformation. The next time you're on the MRT and it's running perfectly on time, or you're driving through Smart Tunnel, or transferring seamlessly between transit systems with one card, remember this. You're not just using infrastructure. You're experiencing a blueprint that global metropolises are now desperately trying to copy. Malaysia didn't follow the world's example. We created one. And that's something worth being proud of. If this changed how you see Malaysia's achievements, hit that like button. Subscribe for more stories about Malaysian innovation that deserves global recognition. Drop a comment telling me which infrastructure project you use most often. Let's celebrate what we've built together. Malaysia. Boleh isn't just a slogan. It's a proven track record.